Hi, this is Paul from the Kiteboarder magazine. I'm going to tell you guys a little bit about the HQ Matrixx kite. We were able to test the 12 meter down here in La Ventana, and as you can see, this is a foil kite. That means it's a totally different animal than the rest of the kites that we had in this test. It made it a little bit tough to test this kite, especially to compare it to the other kites. It also made it hard to get other riders onto this kite. First of all, it's a 12, and it was a little bit too big for most of the conditions we have here in La Ventana. Also, it's a foil, and it's just so different than the rest of the kites. Flies totally different, and a lot of our testers were actually a little bit nervous to put this kite up in the air because it was so different from what they're used to flying. Unlike trainer kites that most of you are probably used to, this foil is actually sheetable. You can change the trim on it, and you can also relaunch it from the water. When we were told we could do that, we didn't believe the people that told us, but we actually went out there and tried it. I actually personally tried it, and we were able to relaunch this kite from the water after tomahawking it straight down into the water, leading edge down, and we were able to get it back up. So we were really impressed with that. As you can see, this is a foil kite, and therefore it has a lot of bridle lines. We didn't have any issues with keeping these things straight, but we were very intimidated by this massive lines, especially when you unroll this kite. It looks like a mess, but we just left the lines connected the entire time and had no trouble sorting this stuff out. It's a totally different experience flying a foil kite compared to flying an inflatable kite that most of you guys are used to. It just has a totally different feel out there on the water, totally different experience, almost a totally different set of skills. It does do some really neat things, and it also just is not really comparable to an inflatable leading edge kite. Some pros on the Matrixx kite. First of all, there's no need to pump this thing. It's a foil kite, there are no bladders. If you really don't like to pump, this might be the kite for you. If you like to ride in the snow and it's really hard to pump your kite in the snow, a foil kite's a really good alternative, and it might be something you want to look at. It's also a very efficient kite. It generates a lot of power, and it's also really easy to get upwind on. The key to generating a lot of power with this kite is board speed. If you sit there in the water and just consistently keep trying to dive this kite, it's going to feel like there's no power there. What you have to do is get up and riding and let yourself be pulled downwind, build up a lot of board speed. The more board speed you ride with, the more power this thing generates, and it's really impressive how efficient this is and how much power you can generate. Some cons on this kite. It's a slow turning kite. It's really high aspect, really slow turning. That's just kind of a typical thing with foil kites. They're typically a little bit slower turning. Same with this kite. Another con on this kite that might not necessarily be a con if this is what you're looking for, it's a foil kite. We listed that as a con because it's just so different, such a different feel than an inflatable kite, that a lot of people are going to feel uncomfortable on it at first. We found it's easy to fly, it's slow turning, it's very efficient. If it's something you might be interested in, definitely give it a try before you look into buying one, because it's a totally different experience if you're only used to kites that you have to pump up. So this is the bar that you use with the HQ kites. Now, even if you're not familiar with foil kites, you'll be familiar with how this bar works. It works basically the same as just a standard inflatable leading edge kite. This bar features a below the bar leash attachment point, below the bar push away quick release, and also a below the bar swivel to keep your lines from getting twisted up while you ride. Something unique about this bar is it features what's called a braking strap, and that's something peculiar to foils. This is actually how you can land the kite. If you pull this strap right here, it's attached to your outside lines, you can actually land the kite backwards. It'll just make the kite back up all the way down to the ground just by pulling in this line. So that's a feature you're not used to seeing, and it's a feature common to foil kites. It also features an easy to use above the bar sheeting system, and one thing that's unique about it, it does look the same as an inflatable kite, but the sheeting works a little bit different. It's not always sheeting out to depower the kite. Usually you're sheeting out to increase the forward speed of the kite, and it's a totally different experience. Other than that, it's going to be a bar that you're pretty much familiar with as an inflatable kite rider. So that's the 2012 HQ Matrixx kite. Once again, we tested the 12 meter kite down here in La Ventana. Of our testers that rode this kite, 2 out of 2 would recommend this kite, but that 2 out of 2 is with an asterisk. And that asterisk is, if you're interested in this kite and you've never flown a foil kite, get out and try one before you commit to buying one, because it is a totally different experience. It might be something that you're really into, it might not. But of our testers that rode it, 2 out of 2 would recommend it for its purpose as a foil kite. That's just our brief overview of this kite. If you want to read more about it, go to thekiteboarder.com.